Good morning. I just want to begin with a comment from last week, and then Emor Hashem will begin today. The question that was raised from last week here, which was a very important question, is we spoke about the halacha is that if somebody comes within, an elderly person, either 60 or 70, comes within Daled Amos of you, so you should stand. Right? And obviously, if you're in the middle of davening, osek b'mitzvah patur min mitzvah, obviously, it's not relevant. So the question that was asked here was, does an elderly person have to stand for another elderly person? And I asked that question because I thought it was a fantastic question, so I did pursue it. And the answer that I got, and again, everyone has to ask their LOR, the answer I got is, in general, a person needs to stand melo komaso, which means fully, like you stand up. In this case, it would be enough to go like this. To just raise yourself a little bit to show deference, honor for this person who has reached what? Like, again, if you've reached this age, you deserve to what? To be honored, to stand up and again, So that's what I was told, and I found that a very fascinating answer, and therefore I am sharing it with you. What you want to do with that is your prerogative. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We have a very, very basic class today, at the same time so fundamental, so important, that it's like, this is where it's at. So instead of talking about it, let's talk it. The Parsha begins with the Kohanim. Can you hear me? I always love asking that question because they won't even know if I asked it if they can't even hear me. So it's really a great question, yeah. The Kohanim have certain laws that are specific to the Kohanim. Right, they shall not make a bald spot on their heads, they shall not shave an edge of their beard, and then their flesh they shall not cut a gash. I know, very relevant for your lives. They shall be holy to their God, and they shall not desecrate the name of their God. For the fire offerings of Hashem, the food of their God, they offer, so thus they must remain holy. Right, and who they're allowed to marry, v'chulei. Now, the Rashi tells us in source 3, Kiddushing to you is an imperative. They are holy whether they like it or not, right? Which means also that even if they are Baal Mum, which is what the Parsha speaks about, they have some type of imperfection, and they may not be able to serve in the Beis Hamikdash, nevertheless, they're still what? They're still Kohanim. They're still qualified as Kohanim. And this, as Rav Hirsch notes at the continuing in 3, these general provisions pertaining to the status of Kohanim apply in a similar fashion to the Jewish people as a nation. We are called what? A mamleches Kohanim. We are called a nation of priests. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, albeit the pasuk that we are referencing is specific to the Kohanim. However, we who are known as the mamleches Kohanim, I want to then talk about what we're going to learn as being applicable to our lives. So that's where we're going. We have one question for today. It's great when you just have one question. It makes your life so much easier. And this is a question the Eish Tamid asks Rav Druk in source 4. He says, Ma ma'od yesh li tmoa lefi zeh, ma shemamshicha pasuk ve'omer v'lo yechalu shem Elokehem. Halo tchilat hapasuk ve'amshecho rechokim kirchot mizrach mimarav v'shtei ksavot shano lahem im mitzavim hakohanim b'zeh liyo kadoshi ma'al kol kedusha. If the Kohanim are told you have to be holy, right, you are holy to Hashem. V'chi tzarich od l'raron shelo yechalu shem Elokeim. Do we then have to be told, and do not desecrate Hashem? Duh! That's my language. If they are holy, of course, they're nowhere near the level of what? Of desecrating Hashem's name. And further, ha'ein zo stira, it's in the same breath. Be holy to Hashem, that shall be holy to their God, and they shall not desecrate the name of God. How can you in the same breath talk about the holiness to Hashem and not to desecrate him? Clearly, if you are going to be holy, you're nowhere near coming to what? To desecrate him. Now, just to offer one approach before we work on ours, the Eish Tamid Rav Yisrael Meir Druk offers in source 5, he says, Shinei avod chil Hashem nikba l'chol echad kefi dargato. Chil Hashem is not a universal. Every person on the level that they are at. And therefore, he says in 6, there's so many levels of Chil Hashem. So when Adam Sadik v'Kadosh, that everyone looks at him b'Kedusha v'Tara, if he does something which in people's eyes is not becoming for him, it's a Chil Hashem, albeit for somebody else, it's what? It's not, doesn't even hit the radar. So when we're talking about how can you say Kiddush and Chil Hashem in the same breath, for one person, what they do on their level may seem to be a what? A Chil Hashem. And still is nice, but it doesn't talk about the person themselves, right? The person themselves has to be the Kedusha and the Chil. So therefore, my friends, I'd like to suggest one answer, which is going to have 2 levels. And I'm telling you, it is so fundamental for lives. I said that already, I know. And then we're going to end with one final level. I'll just mention briefly. So we're ready to start. Open yourselves up. Okay, I said that 3 times, I know. Source 7. Again, Rav Druk. Hi al pi hayesod she'rachdu bo mispar pamim. She'le'olam ein la'adam derech memutzat. There is no middle ground in life. Ella au sheyeh kadosh shalokav v'im lo kain azay memeli darder l'tahom. It's either or. Either you'll be kadosh, or you're on the road down to Chil Hashem. And we have to recognize that these are the 2 options in life. Hence the title. 8. Ki le'olam avodas ha'adam hi o shenimsal b'kedusha. You're either, every person, either in a state of kedusha, o shechalila yored al zuta techtona, or you're in the state of Chil Hashem. And Rav Gamliel echoes this in 9. HaTorah omeret b'zeh shelifnei hadam nitzvot shtei efshariyot. You have 2 options. Hasodrot zu et zu b'tachlit. You're right. At first glance, they contradict each other. Either you're kadosh Elokim or you're mechalel Hashem Rachman Litzlam. V'alatam livkor liyot b'tzadik kedusha b'tachlis. We have that choice. Now, obviously, in order to appreciate what we're saying here, my friends, today, we have to ask a much more basic question. And that question is, how do you... Very good. How do you define what is Kedusha and what is Chil Hashem? I'm throwing around terms here, right? Either you're Kadosh or you create a Chil Hashem. Well, that's very nice when you're throwing around terms, but unless I understand this, what this means, it's very limited. So let's try to understand, right? And everything is obviously complex on many levels, but let's try to get a sense of what this is about. There's a great... Maimer, really 2, in a sefer called Emek HaParsha, Rav Zechariyahu, who says the following. I'm in the arrow in 10. Hamilah shechozeret pam achar pam al otzma b'seder parshios. The word that repeats itself over and over again in Parshios Achrei Mos and Kedoshim and Emor is the Shoresh Kuf Daled Shin Kadosh. Ve'yitem Kedoshim. V'hit Kadashtem. The Parsha itself is called what? Kedoshim. Kedusha is the theme in Sefer Vayikra. And again, Sefer Vayikra, Torah's Kohanim, is relevant for our lives. Lutzat mitzvahs kedoshim to you shekivna klape kol Yisrael. It's kedoshim to you for all of us, and specifically in our parsha for the Kohanim, kedoshim you leloheim, they should be holy to Hashem. And we know, we'll just make mention in the squiggly that for the Kohanim, this added level of kedusha is very important, which means they get the first aliyah, They get, at benching, you always say, you have mezuzah. Is there a Kohen here? You treat them with, obviously, a higher level of Kedusha at Hayom Hazeh. Now, let's try to understand what these terms are about. What is Kedoshim to you? So it's interesting, we have a pasuk in our Parsha, in source number 11, which says, in the bracket, Ushmartem mitzvosai, you shall keep my mitzvos, v'asitem otam ani Hashem, and do them. V'lo techalalu et shem kodeshi, and don't desecrate my name. V'nigdashti b'toch b'nei Yisrael, and you shall sanctify me in Klal Yisrael, among Klal Yisrael. Ani Hashem ekadshchem, I am Hashem who sanctifies you. This is the source for what? Kiddush Hashem. Now, how do we understand Kiddush Hashem? So I'll tell you how we generally understand Kiddush Hashem. We generally understand Kiddush Hashem, the imagery that comes to my mind, I'm going back to 5th grade, SAR. Any of you have heard of SAR? Yeah. Okay, SAR, 5th grade, co-ed school. And don't I look like an SAR graduate? No. Oh, I'm so disappointed. 5th grade, SAR. You went to SAR? We have an SAR graduate back there. Probably a few years younger than me. Okay, so 5th grade SAR, going to the Natural History Museum. You're all with me? We're on that yellow school bus. All of you right there with me on this school bus? And we are told, the boys are wearing tzitzit and kippot. The girls, you're dressed like, Orthodox Jews. Make sure that you are not rambunctious. Do not throw anything on the floor, right? You need to make a what? A Kiddush Hashem, right? That's the speech we got in 5th grade. And I remember it. It's only been 5 years later, so it's been so hard that it's still in my mind. And then we also think of Kiddush Hashem in terms of dying al Kiddush Hashem, right? The people that are Kedoshim, that literally die al Kiddush Hashem. My friends, that is very limited in what Kiddush Hashem is about. Source 12. To die al Kiddush Hashem, it's like a one-time part of your life. You know what's much harder to do? To live al Kiddush Hashem. Very good. To live al Kiddush Hashem. Isur Chilul Hashem v'mitzvah lekadesh et shmo on the arrow einam mugbalim ela ba'im lidei bitui. This is the key, my friends. Bechol rega v'rega. Living al Kiddush Hashem and not making a Chilul Hashem is a moment by moment aspect of our lives. Bahalicha, the way we walk, making Torah Yisrael beloved to us, being loyal. This is a moment-by-moment decision. What is this about? So let's learn a little bit of Nesiva Shalom, L'Slam and Rebbe, source 13. The Rambam, in Mitzvahs Kiddush Hashem, is found Behilchos Yesodei HaTorah, which is fascinating. I would have assumed that the laws of Kiddush Hashem would be found in his writings on Kedusha. No, it's found in Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah, which are the what? The foundations of Yiddishkeit. And he said, Hu mipnei shezeh tafkid klali v'karei Yehudi sheyehudi mechuyav bo kol yemei chayav. Arrow in 13. This is something that every Jew is obligated every moment of his life. Mitzvah v'nikdashi b'toch b'nei Yisrael hi lo rak ba'ofen she'akum onso lavor aveira. It's not just, when a guy says do this otherwise. Ela zeh tafkid klali sheyehudi lekadesh et Hashem. It's being mekadesh, the name of Hashem, b'mechama hatmidit, in the continuous battle, neged shorish hara hanimsabo hamashcho tamid lasot neged ritzon Hashem. Wow. Every moment when I have an inner conflict, do I do the will of Hashem or do I not? And I'm able to overcome this conflict at that moment. I have been Mekadesh Shem Shamayim. Let's put this in English. Someone tells me a piece of Lashon Hara. We know that there are different levels and gradations of Lashon Hara. There's certain Lashon Hara that you have to tell. That's what we're talking about here. Do you know what I'm talking about? This is just too good to pass up. And I really want to tell it. And I really do. But I have this little voice, it's a whisper, that says, don't. It's usher. No, but you don't understand. I know, I got it, but no, you can't. And I'm in a struggle zone. And I don't. I eat chocolate instead. That's always a good thing to do instead. Chocolate solves all problems, by the way. That and ice cream. Those are the two that you must have in your house at all times. I've been Makadesh Shem Shemayim at that moment. Has anyone witnessed this? The Ribono Shel Olam. I tell the Lashon Hara, and we'll talk more about this. I've created Chil Hashem. Kiddush Hashem and Chil Hashem. This was our question in the pasuk. You're going to say it in the same breath, and the answer is yes. It's a fulcrum. It's either this or that at every moment of our lives. Let's continue in this Siva Shalom, where he says, I'm in the circle asterisk. V'chol Yetzer in 13. Machshavot libo rak kol hayom koach hara moshechet adam kol hayom miboker and erev lara. It's pushing me all day. You really want to get up this morning? No, I don't. Stay in bed. That's a good idea. No, but you got to get up. And it's pulling me all day from moment go. V'kineged zeh nemra mitzvah v'nikdashti b'toch b'nei Yisrael lahavei kol hayom neged rak kol hayom. To overcome this negativity. Shelo lavor al Ritzono Yitbarach. Ubezesh Yehudi muchan tamid lasod hafech min tavat libo. When a person is ready continuously to do against the desires of their heart, harehu mekadesh et Hashem. That is a Kiddush Hashem. And he brings a very fascinating pasuk in source 14. We know by the Akedah, the Vayisav Ramatanav, he raises his eyes, and he sees a ram that's caught in the thicket. So the word achar is very strange there. Just see a ram. So he quotes here from the Choseh of Lublin Gevaldik. There's a nisayon of the Akedah, and that's dying al Kiddush Hashem. And then there's an ayil achar. Then there's another type of ayil. Then there's another type of akedah, which is ne'achaz b'svach, that's caught in the thicket. That's the ayil, that's the ram, that's the thicket, that's the challenges that we have in our lives. And those are the two types of akedahs, because it's hard. When I don't speak that Lashon Hara, it's not easy. I struggle. And to do the will of Hashem, you shouldn't say this, you shouldn't eat this, you shouldn't wear this. I mean, it's all day. It's a struggle. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm having a definitional problem. The pasuk itself says about the Torah on Israel. And we commonly use Chil Hashem as Klapei Chutz. Now the examples that you give show exactly that Shira. You're on the school bus and you're going to the museum until you have the same speech. And how do you go to that school? You know, you're presenting yourself outside, you better be perfect. But that's not what the pasuk says, and that's not what the second example about Lashon Hara is done.
So we have a few psukim. It's an excellent question. We have an Ikdashi b'toch b'nei Yisrael, which is the public, and we also have Kedoshim to you. No. The first pasuk. Vaydaber Hashem Moshe Lemor Kedoshim to you, ki kadosh ani Hashem Elokechem. So when you're talking about, there's a few psukim having to, Yasha Koach Gadol. You have a few psukim that have to do with Kedusha. So we learn different laws from the different places. You with me? So this would be, you're right, from this pasuk, it would be the more public. The Kedoshim Tiyu would be, Ki Kadosh Ani Hashem Elokechem, between me and the Ribono Shel Olam. Yeah? Okay. And that's what he says. In the arrow in 14. I'm in the arrow in 14. Went down, yeah? Double underline. And therefore we have to live in a way that is in all of our lives, in our midos, in our interpersonal relationship between Adam l'makom, ben Adam l'chaveru, ben Adam l'atzmo. In every aspect of ourselves, we have to live in the most, I was going to use the word honorable. You have a better word? Respectable? I don't know. You're getting the picture. Bekavadik. Virtuous. All good. Hey, that's a V word. I use that word. The title is the hardest part of the shir, trust me. It really is. And this is what the Rambam says. Labriyot, this is what the Nesiva Shalom says, is the Kiddush in the Rambam. What mitzvos are found in Hilchos Yesodei Torah? I'm doing 15 and 16 now, outside. It's Emunah B'Hashem. It's Avas Hashem. It's Yiras Hashem. The mitzvos found in Hilchos Yesodei Torah are mitzvos that are moment by moment. It's not like, once a year or once a day you should love Hashem. It's continuous. The mitzvah Kedoshim, to be holy, is a continuous mitzvah. Let's take a look a little bit. Yes, ma'am.
I think that one of the most difficult challenges that I personally probably know about that in society now is this word that I don't want my kids to use, don't judge. We are who we are. We are an example of Kiddush Hashem. And when we hear vague, it's don't judge. To a certain degree, it's not judging, but I have to voice an opinion because there's no clarity. And so when you say, that you have to live a Kiddush Hashem, you really do, you also, I think, have an obligation in this mess of the society to voice your opinion, to open up people and say, this is not judging. There's a different way of looking.
I agree with you 100%. I think it's a little bit on the side of the road I'm taking today.
I know.
Good. Okay. So you got it out. You feel good. I listened to you, and now I want to go back to the program. Okay, great. We're all doing great here. And by allowing you to speak, I gave you voice. So that's the Kiddush Hashem. If I would say, what are you talking about? You have nothing to what to do. To have Yechil Hashem. So we have it by moment by moment. So, but I'm not judging. You're great. I love it. Let's take a look at the Mesilas Yesharim, source 17. The Mesilas Yesharim, chapter 11, talks a lot about different areas of our day-to-day lives, and he mentions Kiddush Hashem. The branches of desecrations of Yaakov Hillel's Sefer of Hashem's name are also numerous and great, for man must be extremely careful of his master's honor, and everything he does, he should look and ponder greatly that did not bring about something which could be a desecration of the honor of heaven, God forbid. And again, it's klape others and klape ourselves. And it works so many ways. There are many forms of Chil Hashem. Our every action should be scrutinized for possible negative verification, as it's impossible to overestimate the gravity of an act which serves to lessen Hashem's honor. I'll share with you a personal story, which is always dangerous. I was in IKEA a few weeks ago, and so IKEA Beit Shemesh, perhaps many of you have been there. I'm in the downstairs part after you've picked up your major stuff before you go to checkout. So the aisles are very wide there. And nevertheless, I am taking ownership. I was wrong. So I'm saying this. I met somebody I haven't seen in years. And I'm standing and talking to her. And we were talking where? Oh, you've been there. We were talking right in the middle of the aisle. And a woman, I won't describe, said in a very not nice way, not to be negative, I don't judge, right? Made a comment like, why are you standing in the middle of the aisle? That type of thing. And she was right. She was right. And at the same time, there was plenty of room for her to what? There are aisles and there are aisles. And it made me aware. It made me aware that you're having a casual conversation with somebody in IKEA. Nothing is casual. And everything has to be what? Yeah, you have to really live a life of sensitivity. Is this conversation in the middle of the way? You see this all the time. I have this in Yesh. Someone has a cart this way. Someone has a cart that way. They stop and talk, and you are what? You're stuck.
Happens all the time.
All the time.
When you're standing cooking a car,
waiting to go down the road and somebody's deciding to park.
Yes.
You're annoyed because you need to get somewhere.
Right, exactly. So these are situations that happen all the time. We have to have a little bit of sensitivity that we are not the center of the universe, even though we are. But we have to make room for other people who are also the center of the universe. And that's what he's saying here. Our every action should be scrutinized for possible negative ramifications. Yes, ma'am?
Is the person who made the comment, they can heal Hashem?
No, because this person isn't yet holding in a way of Torah mitzvos.
But if they were a person.
If they were a person who was making,
Is there a way to do it?
in a nicer way, okay, but I'm not judging. Not in a judging way, yes. There are ways of saying things and the ways of saying things. You are correct, thank you. You are right, which puts really every single person in personal responsibility. Me, who's blocking the way, and her, who could say in such a nice way, oh, I'm so happy you've met a friend, or, or excuse me, and not like, yeah, excuse me, can I get, in a nice, sweet way, sweet. You're right. Yes,
Not to completely get off the road, but
please don't.
that's an obligation to now judge favorably and say she must be really having a bad day.
Right, okay, so it can go on infinitum that I have to judge her that she's having a bad day, and then, you know what, if I live my life like this, which I should, I will need to have stock in Tylenol because it will give me. As our sages of blessed, but you're correct, Rifki. The statement was well taken. Both of you are on target. As our sages of blessed memory said, what is considered chilul Hashem? Rava said, if someone like me were to buy meat and not pay for it immediately. Rabbi Yochanan said, if someone like me would work 4 amos without Torah and without tefillin. Every person is where they're holding. You have a different level of what? Expectation, exactly. The Ramchal explains that the issue is that every man, according to his level and according to what he is considered to be in the eyes of the generation, must contemplate his actions in order not to do anything which is inappropriate for a person, and I can't find the next page, I found it, like himself. Perhaps a certain act is technically permissible, although for a particular individual, it could be a desecration of Hashem's name. And can anyone afford to take a chance? And he goes on to say, continuing in 18 and 19, that somebody who learns Torah has obviously a what? A greater level that we expect. So if you see somebody who looks like they're, an Oreo cookie, with holding a book under, their arm, and they look like they're sitting and learning, for them to act disrespectful, we say what? I would have expected more from you. And at the same time, each one of us standing in this room, when we walk out on the street, people look at us and say, this is a religious person. How do they talk? How do they act? And you're in the post office and you start making eyes and you start grumbling under your mouth. Or over your mouth, yeah. That is for you, for where you're at, the way people look at you. We have to recognize this. In the arrow in 19, we must not delude ourselves into thinking we live in a vacuum. That's probably the key idea here. We do not. The behavior of a Torah Jew, especially of a Torah scholar, will decide the attitude of society towards Torah and learning. Will they want to be like him and raise their children be like him, or will they want anything but? Rav Zechariah tells a story which is very beautiful. Happens to be a Meron story, so it's appropriate Erev, whatever, Lag Bomer, whatever holiday it is. I'll share with you, this is parentheses, I know I've taken a stop off the road. This is very interesting. Rav Biederman has a footnote, which I found fascinating, so I'm sharing with you. Why do we call it Lag BaOmer? We know that Nusach Sfard says Lag, or counting, not BaOmer, but LaOmer, right? Chamisha Yamim La Omer, not Ba Omer. And some people do both. No one, you will hear no one. Even the Nusach Sfard people say Lag La Omer. Everyone says Lag Ba Omer. You ever wonder why? No, I didn't either, till I read this piece. And he brings here, take it or leave it, but it's a nice word to share, is that the Ramah, which is Nusach Ashkenaz, we hold like the Ramah, not the Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah says, the Ramah holds you should say ba. And that's why Ashkenazim will say ba. The Ramaz Yurtzeit is Lag Bomer. So in deference to his honor, everyone holds Lag Bomer. Isn't that fascinating? Fascinating, yeah. Okay, now that we got that down, here's the story. I knew where I was. I went back on the road. I'm in the car. Here we go. Lag Bomer. So the story happened not on Lag Bomer, but it's a Meron story. So here's the story. A fellow with his family rents a simmer for like 3 weeks in one of those little yishuvim by Meron. You know, there are quite a number of them. And you rent it with a pool. I'm sure many of you have done this. So one of his first days in this place, obviously if you're on the foot of Har Meron, you go to daven by the kever of the Rashbi. So there happened to be a lot of people there, and he pulls up into the parking lot, and he tries to get in between 2 cars, and he wasn't as successful as he wished he was, and he damaged the back light of the car. So he immediately takes out a pen and paper, and he writes a big note. I damaged the back of your car. Here's my name. Here's my number. Here's the address I'm staying for the next few weeks. Please contact me so I can reimburse you, and puts it on the windshield. The next day or so, or maybe later that day, I don't recall, there's a knock at the simmer door. He opens the door. A guy takes out his machine, whatever you call those, smartphones, and he takes a picture of him. And he's very startled. And he says, what's going on? He says, are you the fellow that wrote the note on my car? Yeah. I took a picture of you because I don't believe that such people are still alive today. And I need to remind myself that there are people here who are that honest. I would never have known, there are a zillion people there. And I want to remember you. And then he comes back and he gives them a bill. He says, please tell me how much it is, 300 shekels. He gives them the 300 shekels, no problem. The end of his stay there, the guy knocks on the door again with his wife. And he says, I want you to know, my wife and I cannot stop thinking about what happened. And we decided if this is the way religious Jews act, we want to become religious. He got more than he bargained for it, when he wrote that note. That's what he's saying here. You don't know. Will they want to be like you? Will their kids want to be like you? You don't know. We are a walking Kiddush Hashem. Now, in 21, on a much lower level, again, so we were talking about major Kiddush Hashem on a much lower level, but still exists. Any observant Jew who sins causes the Chil Hashem. I'm in the asterisks in 21. Even a sin performed in utter secrecy and privacy is a desecration of Hashem's name, regardless of the absence of an audience. If the sin is committed in front of others, it becomes a public desecration of Hashem's name. Otherwise, which is obviously more serious transgression. But my friends, what I want us to walk away with today, that Kiddush Hashem and Chilul Hashem is not just on that bus in 5th grade. It's every moment of our lives in the privacy of our lives. And obviously it's a continuum. Outside, inside, major actions, smaller actions, nothing's black and white. Now, if that's Kiddush Hashem, if that's what that's about, let's flip the page, and now let's try to take a look at what is Chilul Hashem. And I want to share a Chiddush Gadol here for today. This is all on level 2A. I'm going to look at this same idea on another level, but we're still on 2A in terms of our mitzvos. I'm in 23. We think in the arrow 23, Ha'olam regilim lachshov shekasher osim averos o gormim lacherim lavor averos b'vchina machtiye harabim chas v'shom mechalel shem shamayim. Right? We think that if we cause others to sin or public sin, that's a chil Hashem. And he says in the squiggly bipshuto, mashmuto lechalel melashon chulin. Lechalel comes from the word chulin, to desecrate. Lakacha davar meromein v'kadosh lo tzio lavcho lechulin. We take something holy and we desecrate it. We take it away from its holiness. Ulam benosaf lakach, and anyone who lives in Israel knows this. Hamusag chilul mechil gam et hamilah halal. What is a halal? Empty space. Very good, right? Uperisho adarim yitzirat halal reik b'davar malay. Halal, chilul means to make something empty from that which was filled. Ubinidon didan in our case. The whole world is filled with the presence of Hashem. Leit atar panui mine. There's no place devoid of Hashem. Im kain, therefore, kasher adam choteo machti. Therefore, if you sin and cause others to sin, harjrei shebekach yotzer kivyachol mitzius, you've as if created a reality. Shala heder v'chalel panui mitzito Hashem yitbarach b'bria. You've created a space devoid of God. You've taken Hashem out of this situation, out of this world. Where am I? I'm in asterisk 23. Who says this? Rav Zechariyahu. It's all Emek HaParsha. No problem. And he quotes here from Rav Chaim Volozhin, 24. Gam liot yarei v'charei mizel lavor chatzol malacha mitzotav yitbarach. We should be afraid of doing any averos. Ki malo kol haaretz kavoda. And the Rav Chaim Volozhin ends the Nefesh HaChaim in this shemarech Hashem kilo makom shomed bahu chalu panu mimenu yitbarach ve'no choshesh v'lavor mitzotav yitbarach. Listen to what the Nefesh HaChaim is saying. If a person sins, it's as if they are saying, in this place, Hashem doesn't exist because I can do whatever I want. If I really believe that Hashem was here, I wouldn't even what? Think or contemplate. I wouldn't dream of doing this. Chilul Hashem, and the asterisk in machshava sheyesh chalal u'makom panui melokut. Chilul Hashem means that you actually believe there's a place devoid of godliness. Ve'ilu Kiddush Hashem yevana shaleit atar panui mine. Kolo kama kamo b'hem Hashem nistar. You realize Hashem is everywhere. Wow. Therefore, my friend, in every action that we do, Ma'asav midim alav shumevin lefi dato ashlilit v'akuklut kilo karshperchu chas v'shom enom nimstab minkomo. And this is the depth of Kiddush Hashem and Chilul Hashem at every moment. When I do the will of Hashem, I am acknowledging Hashem is here. At the moment that I sin, it's as if I am saying what? The place is empty, which is Kfira. And as Rav Dessler notes in 26, Kol Yesod v'inyan Chilul Hashem hi b'matzav Adam. Obviously Hashem is everywhere. We're not taking Hashem out. It's in our what? Way we are viewing this particular place. There's no in between, my friends. It's either a Kiddush Hashem or a Chilul Hashem at every moment. And when we think about it in those terms, it just like reorients our whole life. Yes, ma'am?
It seems to me that if you were always thinking about Hashem, there is literally no room for anything else.
That's right. You're 100% correct. If you are thinking about Hashem at all times, Shivitzi Hashem l'negdi tami, there's no room for anything else. You know, I'll share with you another personal example. I'm not sure it's a good example. I'm not sure it's a good story. But I'm going to share with you anyway. Why? I don't know, but I am. There's a certain phone line that you call up that has shiurim on it. And it used to be that every week it has new ideas, that if you just continue going on, you know, let's say it starts every Monday new, that after you finish, it's 20 minutes. Monday, it will automatically go back to what? The previous week. So that if you missed something from last week, you can what? You can get it. You just go to the end of Monday and you'll get back to last week. So my daughter had mentioned to me, Ima, you really need to listen to something from last week. So, okay, I had listened to the Monday one already. This was Tuesday morning. And I figured, okay, so let me go from Monday. Let me, fast forward, and I'll get back to, am I making any sense? The week before. So I'm fast forwarding, and then it just stops. So I said, I probably fast forward too much. The best thing for me to do is put on the Monday class again. And I know it's 13 minutes, whatever it is. And then in 13 minutes, I'll, know that I'm at the end. And I said to myself, well, I already listened to Monday's class, so I'll put it on with no volume. And in 13 minutes, I'll come back. And then I said to myself, Shira, just the fact that you listened to it yesterday doesn't mean you can't what? Listen to it again. You have a choice right now. You could sit in the car and listen to nothing for 13 minutes, or you could listen to the same shir for 13 minutes. What are you going to choose? And the question came to my mind because this shir was on my radar. Every moment we have opportunities to leave it as, okay, I'll just have nothing on for 13 minutes, or I can have what? I can have content in my life these 13 minutes. And we have many 13 minutes in every day. Now, if that is level number 2A, because my time is going on me, I want to flip the page and I want to make this even a little bit more dramatic. What we've spoken about till now, how can you have Chil Hashem and Kiddush Hashem in the same moment? So one idea that we saw is that for every person, the way people look at them, for them, they didn't think it was a Chil Hashem, but on their level, this was a Chil Hashem. That's one. The second way we looked at it, which is what we're talking about now, is Kiddush Hashem and Chil Hashem are in the same breath. Because at every moment you have a choice. Do I stand in the middle of the aisle or not? Do I say this? Do I not? It's a question, and then you're either creating a place for God to rest, or you are emptying that place from God resting. That is every moment of our lives. Now, it goes in another area of our lives as well, my friends. Let's take a look. Source 29. Oh, Moshe. We know, famous pasuk, the difference between a person and an angel is the person is called a holech, someone who walks, and an angel is called an omed, somebody who stands. And we want to continuously walk. Now, why is there a problem in just standing still? Here it goes. When you stand still, you are making a statement, whether you realize it or not, is that I am okay where I am at. I'm fine. And I have no desire to be able to be the best I can be. And Hashi'ifa 30, Va'aratzon, Him Chelik Biltini from Mahut HaChayim. Becoming greater and having aspirations of growth is the essence of life. Ki kol od yesh la'adam shifot. If you have aspirations and desires, harei hu chai, you're alive. And if you're complacent and apathetic, then what's going on here? And therefore he says, Mifuar Mika in the end of 30, Shadam Tzarich Ladash Matzah Mamutza, there's no middle ground. Now, I want to take this further, 31. We know the Mishnah of Avos tells us, Chaviv Adam last week, Shenev Rabbat Selim, Chiba Yisera no Dalo, Shenev Rabbat Selim. We're beloved, we're created in the image of God. And why did God create us? He created us to bring quote Shemayim into this world. Here goes. Double underline the whole paragraph. That means it's wild. V'tafkido shel mivchar habruim hadam. Our job. L'kadesh et Hashem, to bring honor to Hashem b'chol masav alichotav in everything we do. Right? Following Hashem's will. Umemela, if you do this, which means not just keeping Torah mitzvos, it means becoming the best person I can be at every given moment. That I live up to my higher self, and I'm continuously asking, how can I become a better person? How can I grow? Umemela. Therefore, if I'm not working on myself, if I'm not growing, and the growth and the working of myself in and of itself is an aspect of Kiddush Hashem. Harei mechalot Hashem. If you're not doing what Hashem asked you to do, which is tachlis kol habriya, to become the best you can be, so then there's no greater chilul Hashem than this, when you have the opportunity to take the world Hashem has given you and to utilize it to grow and to bring a kvod shamayim into this world, and you're utilizing the world just for your own personal pleasures and desires, back to the chocolate and ice cream, and nothing beyond that, there's no greater chilul Hashem than that. Hashem created a world for us to be. And I'm doing everything but that. You know, it's like you go over to a person and you say, how are your Kabbalas from Rosh Hashanah going? Let me think. What were those Kabbalas? It's a problem. You know, a great line a friend of mine once said to me is to ask a person, how's your garden growing? How's your garden growing? What are you working on now? Working? Yeah, I work. No, what are you working on? Let's take a look. There's a sefer that somebody gifted me with over Pesach, which is about Pesach. But since yesterday was Pesach Sheni, I'm still within the week of Pesach Sheni, which links me to the Pesach, which has nothing to do only with Pesach. Rav Mansour, who's a lot of people probably have heard him on Torah Anytime. Excellent. Be a matzah, 32. The message in life, we have to be a matzah, not a chametz. Matzah, something is always happening to it. It's always being worked on. Similarly in life, we have a great potential. And we must always elevate ourselves to reach our potential. We can never be satisfied. We can never be satiated. The problem with those people is they're comfortable. They think, Baruch Hashem, I'm on a nice level. I learn Torah. I go to some shirim. I give a little charity. They're happy with the level they're at. They aren't interested in working on themselves to improve. They're just like the chametz. They want to be on the counter and to be left there. And again, our job is to be step by step. And he quotes here in 33, the difference between Moshe Rabbeinu and Noach. Noach started out as an Ish Tzaddik and landed up as an Ish Adama, a man of the earth. Moshe Rabbeinu started out as an Ish Mitzri and ended up being an Ish Elokim. And the Rambam writes in 34a that everyone could be as great as a Tzaddik as Moshe Rabbeinu. Next page, 34b. A person to think he doesn't have potential, but the Rambam writes that he can become as great as Moshe Rabbeinu, showing us the limitless one has. We cannot be passive. We cannot take an inactive role in our lives. And this is the vision of in 35 of the Sula Mutzav Arza, the vision of the ladder of Yaakov Avinu. There are people going up on the ladder, there are people going down on the ladder. The Gemara points out most people are under the misconception that there are three directions: moving up, moving down, and neutral. There are people traveling north, there are those going south, and those parked in the parking lot. Says the Gemara, it's a mistake. There are only two directions, either going up or going down. There's no such thing as being neutral. It's an impossibility. If you are in neutral, you're going down. And the example that he gives is an airplane with 4 engines. You're 36,000 feet up in the air. The engines stop. What happens to the plane? It does not float in the air. What happens? Yep. When the engines are off, you don't coast. When the engines are off, you fall. And similarly in life, when one is making inroads in religion and working and elevating himself, he'll grow. If he wants to stay on his level, he will fall, period. The nature of man is to be lazy, because we're made out of the latest element on earth. Earth itself is dust. You were created from dust. You return to dust. There's nothing lazier than dust. It sleeps all day, it rests. And if you don't hit it, it stays dormant. Human beings are made out of that. It's our nature not to move. When a person's sitting on the couch, he's asked, could you bring me something? And he replies, nah. I love when writers write as it is. I'm too tired. Where does that come from? From the dust, from what you created it. But remember, when a person is lazy and suffices the level he's on, he automatically begins to fall. The Gra, very famous taich of the Pasuk in Mishlei in the asterisk, Orach Chaim, the way of life, Lamalo Maskil, is higher than you can imagine. The amount of things you can accomplish in life is limitless. And what do you gain by always rising high? It keeps you, Laman Sur Mismo Mata, from falling into the depths. Because if you don't elevate yourself, you will fall. There's no para. There's either milk or meat. There's no parking. There's no neutral. That's a great title of Shira. There is no parking. But there's no alliteration there, so it doesn't help me. Reb Sadok, 38, very famous Reb Sadok. We have spoken about this here before. Reb Sadok writes, the world is round, and everything that Hashem created is round. Go to your local fruit and vegetable store, the oranges, the apples, the pears, the cucumbers, the watermelons. Are you with me? Are you walking down the aisles? The peppers, the carrots, everything is created round. Look at us. Some of us are rounder than others. I understand that. But every part of our body is round. Why? Because it doesn't stop. Round things you put a ball on the table, it will move. You put something with an angle on the table, it stays put. Our job in life, the message of creation, you have to be like a ball. You always have to be moving to a higher level, to the next year, to the next mitzvah, to the next subject. And he says in 39, don't be a pickle. You take a cucumber, you put it in a jar, and you seal it, and it becomes a pickle. That's good for a cucumber. But when a human being pickles himself, it's dangerous. When a human being preserves himself, if he locks himself in and doesn't want to change, if he argues this is what we do and this is our way, I don't want to change, he's in danger. Maybe true, this was the way, but now we have to update. You must always be like a ball, that is always rolling somewhere. And in fact, just to take this one step further, going back to ascending the path, Rav Yaakov Hillel, we are obligated to reach our own individual perfection within the boundaries of our God-given capacities. And again, I can't compare myself to others. Where they need to grow is not where I need to grow, right? So if I look at somebody else and say, well, look, you know what, let me tell you, compared to them, I'm really holding. You're off mark, because I'm not comparing it to them. I have to compare it to. We will not escape divine judgment remaining second rate. If anything, it will be even worse trouble. As we explained earlier, the heavenly calculator has some very sophisticated features. It reckons judgment, the transgression itself, and also accounting the alternatives in light of our potential. Spiritual growth is not optional, it is mandatory. So my friends, that's the second level. Let's take a look at the third, and then we'll end with one final idea, Mirz Hashem. Yes, ma'am?
What's the name of the sefer?
It's Rav Mansour's sefer is called Mayan Eliyahu, source 32. It's a great sefer. Level number one, on your level, people look at you and say, that's a Chilul Hashem. Level number two, Kedusha and Chilul are side by side. They're not at two ends of the world. In every action, do I speak the Lashon Hara? Don't. In who I am as a person, am I growing? And if I'm not growing, it's not, okay, so I'm not growing, I'm not moving, I'm not becoming a better person. You have desecrated the world that God has given you to grow. You have taken the gifts that Hashem has granted you this day, and you brought Hashem out of the picture. It's as simple as that. Kiddush Hashem or Chilul Hashem. I'd like to share a third idea, just very briefly, and we'll end with a final idea. In 42, Rav Yisrael Hamanik, who was the mashgiach of Ner Aaron, where he says, quoting the Netziv, I think it's a Netziv, yeah, the Netziv, where he says, the pasuk emphasizes Kedoshim Yiyu leElokehem, to their God, which means that a person can do the same action, and at the same time, it can be both a Kiddush Hashem and a Chilul Hashem. Let me explain. The Kohanim walk around saying, I'm Kadosh. Yeah, did you know that? And I want you to what? Respect me. You didn't stand up for me. I just walked in the room. What's the problem? I'm Kadosh. You didn't serve me first? I'm kadosh. The very act of saying, I'm kadosh, I'm holy, and I walk around, is also that very same act, could be a chil Hashem of arrogance. In the very same thing that you can do, the very same act, can be a Kiddush Hashem for the same person, or chil Hashem. If they walk around saying, I'm holy, I'm great, and everyone should respect me, and they do it in a way of arrogance and, what's a better word? Haughtiness, all of the above, that itself is a what? A chil Hashem. It's interesting, the Kohanim Esponan quotes again the Netziv in a similar idea in 43. We know in our Parshat we have the Moadim, we have the Chagim as well. And you can have this with the Chagim. Is Purim, or is it a day of carnival? It's a day just to party. Is Hanukkah, or it's just about sufganiyot and latkes? Is Shavuos coming up? Are we thinking about how am I, thank you, I'm getting there. How am I going to become a Makabel Torah Nasav and Nishma this year? Or is my entire focus on what? Cheesecake. You can take there's nothing wrong with cheesecake. Make the cheesecake. At the same time that you have the cheesecake, you need to have the what? The spiritual preparation. To have the spiritual preparation, to have the cheesecake without the spiritual preparation, is you've taken that Mikra Kodesh and turned it into what? Cheesecake. And again, it's a very fine line. Here's my suggestion, my friends, 44. It's very intense what we've spoken about today. I grant you that. I'd like to suggest that this struggle, which is mamish the Yesodus of Yiddishkeit, is something we think about every morning in the first of the Birkos HaShachar. There is an incredible book, and if you have not yet purchased it, it is available for sale right here. So if you haven't gotten this book, so then today is the day. And I will say it is a great book to learn with somebody. There's a lot of chaburos going on in America, of groups learning it together, and a lot of people learning it, b'chavrusa. I've gotten only positive feedback. Maybe that's because the negative feedback didn't come to my way, but all the feedback that I've gotten, b'chas Hashem, is very positive. The first mitzvah we say every day is notein lasech v'bina lavchin ben yom uvein laila. That Hashem has given the sechvi, either the rooster or our heart, the ability to discern between day and night. And we know day and night is not just the outside day and night, it's between good and evil. Perhaps our greatest personal challenge is being able to look at ourselves with critical honesty. Are we convincing ourselves that we are living a wholesome Torah life when we have merely created an illusion of spirituality? Every day we must make an accounting. Do we live our lives in a confused hodgepodge of light and darkness, or do we strive for clarity and authenticity? For this, we need siyata d'shmaya. However, we need to want to live with the truth of Torah. Concentrate on the divine bina in your core and let it lead you throughout your day. This is the bracha that reminds us of the path we need to take. And I give everybody a bracha that we should be successful on this journey. Ad kan.